clutching her binder against her chest, keeping her gaze on the laminated floor, recognizing people by their footwear, hoping and dreading in equal measure that someone would stop and engage her in the kind of superficial conversations that girls were expected to enjoy. Did you see that new boy in English class? Did you hear what happened at last Saturday's hockey game? The kind of small talk that would finally seal her place as part of a group if she didn't freeze, stutter, or shrink back into her whirled shell like a startled whelk. Lucky dug his paws into her thighs. She tucked him close. She made herself envision her daughter Zoe. Zoe, with her water-blue eyes and Nate's dimples. Zoe, who was 3,000 miles away, sleeping in an Adirondack camp that banned all cell phones and any communication with parents that didn't arrive through the U.S. Postal Service. Zoe, who was too far away to scream at her mother that she hated her, and thus didn't care about what had just happened. Jenna shoved the door open and stumbled out of the car. She lurched on her bad leg as she tightened her grip on Lucky. If she moved fast enough, she could outrun the fear. So she crossed toward the porch, ignoring the goat tethered in the yard and the flash of sunlight off wind chimes swaying from the porch eaves. The second stair bowed under her weight. A big black bird on a perch by the door rustled his wings. The creature cocked its head, skewering her with one shiny black eye. Lucky whimpered. She dropped him to the floorboards just as he loosed a stream of urine. Yes, throwing her old life away was easier than she expected. Starting a new one was not. Please, Claire thought as she heard the knock on the door. Don't let it be another rotisserie chicken. Claire stood in the kitchen with the heels of her hands braced on the counter, hoping beyond desperate hope that if she just kept still, the visitor would leave on the porch whatever she was offering, another pan of lasagna, perhaps, or a head of kale to add to the ones wilting in her refrigerator, and then drive away. She knew it wasn't one of her sisters. Her sisters didn't bother to knock, and they'd just left a half hour ago, a flock of starlings that descended twice a day to see that she'd eaten, pecking at her about keeping her arms elevated, taking her meds, working less in the garden. Her broken-winged raven cried, "Caw, caw, caw." A stranger, then. "The eggs are out back," she called over her shoulder. "Just leave the money in the tin box." She paused, listening for footsteps. Every morning she gathered warm, freshly laid eggs and put them in a labeled box in front of the house. Buyers took how many they wanted and deposited the cost in cash. It was a lot like a drug drop. "Claire?" The voice was faint, unfamiliar, and female. Claire pushed away from the counter in surrender. She weighed the cow-spotted teapot, found it full of water, and lit the burner underneath. Such quick visits to check how she was doing usually stretched to at least 2 cups of green tea. She wished her sisters had never set up that blog after her diagnosis. Now every person she'd ever met in 38 years knew where she lived. And that she no longer had boobs. Claire crossed the den and swung open the front door. The woman made an awkward little jump that loosed a lock of blonde hair from whatever kept it off her neck. Pale, thin, and somewhat rumpled, the woman had the tense look of a dancer afraid she'd just missed her cue. Her fingers dug into the sleeves of her lightweight sweater. A ragged-looking dog quivered by her feet. Then the woman glanced at the dog and shifted her weight. A subtle, tripping rhythm of knee and shoulder that triggered a memory of a girl Claire once knew in high school. A shy little creature with a bad leg. "Oh, my God. I'm sorry about that," the woman said, eyeing the wet trail weaving toward the stairs. "If I could get a bucket of water—" "I'm hallucinating," Claire interrupted. "This is what happens when they change my meds."